Bien, primero pues agradecerle a los organizadores, a Ariana especialmente y Eduardo, pues por el honor de estar aquí frente a este público maravilloso del cual hemos estado aprendiendo en estos diálogos durante estos días y todavía falta más. Y pues también por el honor de estar acompañado pues, de referentes en los distintos temas de la ciencia abierta pues, en este maravilloso panel. Bien, voy a ir presentándolos muy rápidamente. Lo interesante de este panel es que tenemos la representación de distintas infraestructuras abiertas en la región, ¿no? Y de lo cual vamos a aprender un poquito también sobre cómo aportan en la ciencia como un bien público global. Tenemos, por ejemplo, para Redalyc, AmeliCA, Saray, Córdoba. Bueno, ustedes conocen, Redalyc, AmeliCA es la red de revistas científicas de acceso abierto diamante, infraestructura global no comercial, propiedad de la academia. Y Saray es miembro pues, del Consejo Asesor de Redalyc, es investigadora y catedrática jubilada de la Universidad de Costa Rica. Es socia honoraria de Latindex. También tenemos la compañía de Susan Murray, ella es directora ejecutiva del African Journal Online, AJOL, de Sudáfrica, que es la plataforma de revistas académicas públicas en África, que es una organización sin fines de lucro. Y bueno, también tenemos a Andrea Mora, que nos acompaña, ella es presidenta de la Referencia, que es la red de repositorios de acceso abierto en América Latina y más allá, ¿no? Ya no solamente América Latina. La compañía también de Tanja Niemand, de Erudit, que es la plataforma de publicación sin fines de lucro de Canadá, ¿no? Y tenemos también la compañía de Pierre Munier, perdón por mi francés, quien es director asociado de Open Edition y Co-coordinador de óperas. Óperas es la infraestructura europea de investigación dedicada a la comunicación científica abierta en las ciencias sociales y humanidades. Y también es codirector de DOAP, ¿no? El directorio de libros en acceso abierto. Y por último tenemos a Guillermo Chávez, subdirector de revistas académicas y publicaciones digitales de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, y pues quien representa en este panel a Latindex, el Sistema Regional de Información de Revistas Científicas. Y, para poner en contexto, porque hemos hablado mucho, bueno, ya Martín dio una explicación por qué la ciencia, muy buena explicación, por qué la ciencia como bien público. Hemos hablado de plataformas, pero me gustaría contextualizar por qué infraestructuras abiertas. ¿Qué son infraestructuras abiertas? Sobre todo este calificativo de abiertas, esta característica. ¿Por qué es importante que sean abiertas? Esa es como la primera pregunta. Y la segunda es más bien que cada uno de ustedes puedan comentar cómo aportan sus infraestructuras que ustedes representan en esto de que la ciencia sea un bien público global. Entonces, podemos empezar por la primera, quien quiera aportar en ella. ¿Por qué infraestructuras abiertas? ¿Andrea? Ok, uno a la vez.
No, ya que nadie se está animando. Pues muchas gracias por la invitación, Ariana, Eduardo. Qué gusto aquí saludar a muchos colegas que pocas veces nos vemos quizá por la distancia, pero que es un gusto siempre asistir a estos eventos para podernos saludar y platicar e intercambiar ideas. Y bueno, pues yo primero que nada quiero hacer una breve autocrítica de la infraestructura que se tiene en nuestras universidades en México, porque de la infraestructura en apoyo hacia la ciencia abierta, porque realmente estamos todavía muy en pañales. Y me refiero a que, bueno, pues desde las políticas nacionales en México de nuestro órgano de ciencia y tecnología no ha habido apoyo y no ha habido, desde hace algunos años, no ha habido nada de apoyo ni de promoción ni de fortalecimiento de nuestra infraestructura hacia un camino de ciencia abierta. Si bien tenemos algunas modificaciones en la ley que nos invitan a que publiquemos en acceso abierto, a que avancemos hacia la ciencia abierta, pues realmente no hemos tenido ese desarrollo de infraestructura, de tecnologías, de apoyos hacia las universidades, que justamente es donde se genera el conocimiento. Y bueno, pues es lamentable justamente que desde nuestro órgano de ciencia y tecnología no hayamos tenido esos avances en los últimos años. Y eso se ve reflejado justamente, yo creo que en nuestras universidades, los colegas de aquí, de varias de las universidades de México, pues sabemos que hemos ido avanzando en la instalación de plataformas como el OJS, de repositorios, pero estamos muy lejos de tener, por decir de alguna manera, un repositorio de datos abiertos. En la UNAM, que es una de las principales universidades a nivel nacional, de las más grandes, que podríamos tener el mayor presupuesto nacional, no tenemos a la fecha un repositorio de datos abierto y eso es lamentable. Hemos ido avanzando desde hace 10 años más o menos en ayudar a toda la comunidad de editores de revistas a tener las plataformas del OJS, en darles un DOI para que puedan tener una mayor circulación los artículos, en ayudarles a marcar el XML, en tener acuerdos con diferentes instancias como Redalyc. Ya nos hemos ido acercando también para ir metiendo un mayor número de nuestras revistas en la plataforma, en Cielo, en Latindex, pero difícilmente justamente estamos avanzando hacia una infraestructura abierta. Afortunadamente existen proyectos regionales y justamente el día de hoy vengo representando a Latindex y aquí hay varios colegas, Saray, Jorge y algunos otros, con quienes hemos estado desarrollando desde hace tiempo esta infraestructura de Latindex, que justamente ayuda a promover la difusión de las revistas en acceso abierto. Y justamente de las revistas en acceso abierto diamante, porque sabemos que en América Latina el acceso abierto diamante es lo que prevalece. Y es ahí donde hemos estado preocupándonos por ofrecer una plataforma que sea amigable, que pueda ser, en la medida de lo posible, interoperable con otras y que se pueda conectar con otros sistemas de información. Hemos hablado recientemente con la Referencia, con Andrea, para ver de qué forma también podemos ir conectando la plataforma de Latindex. Estamos por desarrollar o liberar un nuevo servicio de Latindex en el que, en colaboración con la Universidad de Costa Rica, hemos desarrollado ya o hemos explotado justamente toda la infraestructura abierta que se tiene en la región para poder ir cosechando los artículos de las revistas que pertenecen al catálogo 2.0 de Latindex y de alguna manera por ahí poder también ir explotando y empujando para que todas estas revistas tengan una mayor calidad, se preocupen por tener una mayor calidad y bueno, pues es ahí por donde hemos ido trabajando con Latindex. Creo que desde luego tener infraestructuras abiertas es lo que va a ayudar a poder conectarnos, interconectar nuestros sistemas y en la medida de lo posible pues lograr un mayor posicionamiento de todas nuestras revistas diamante. Me quedo ahí para darle la palabra a los compañeros.
Bien, muchas gracias. Continuamos con Andrea.
Hola. En el caso de la referencia, yo creo que es muy sencillo explicarlo porque cuando la referencia nace, yo no estuve por ahí en esos años, pero bueno, aquí hay colegas que sí estuvieron y por ahí después me sumé. Creo que lo tiene en el ADN de la concepción de la iniciativa. Para los que no conocen, la referencia está compuesta solo por gobiernos de Latinoamérica y España, orgullosamente, y nace con la idea exactamente de dar a conocer la visibilidad de nuestros bienes públicos generados desde todos los gobiernos. Es decir, entonces toda la infraestructura, porque es una infraestructura federada, la idea es exactamente que todo lo que se genere en nuestros gobiernos sea distribuido, compartido, como un bien público que cualquier persona en cualquier lugar del mundo puede, utilizar. Y en ese sentido, cuando hablamos, no hablamos solo de que una infraestructura abierta como la que tiene la referencia se compone solo de un componente de software, que a veces está asociado como el componente de software, sino el componente humano y de, por ejemplo, las capacitaciones que entre nosotros compartimos, las asesorías y los acuerdos y las alianzas que hacemos entre nosotros como gobiernos, pero también con otros aliados importantísimos al nivel regional, por ejemplo, con Redalyc, con Latindex, con FOLEC, etcétera, y con otros como que cruzamos el otro lado del continente y tenemos pues grandes aliados amigos como por ejemplo como COAR, OpenAir, etcétera. Entonces creo que la concepción es incluso el compartir, el abrir y como les digo y hago acotación ahí, de no solo hablamos de los componentes tecnológicos, sino del más importante que incluso a veces es el de las personas, el del recurso humano y de poder colaborarnos entre nosotros.
Thanks so much. I'm Susan from African Journals Online, and I have some slides. One of the comments Pierre made yesterday was that even though we have shared goals, we might not necessarily have shared understanding of terminology, and that will show in my preparation. I think of AJOL as a platform, not as an open infrastructure. I think of us using open infrastructure. I will try to be quick. A little bit more about AJOL, like the Latin American platforms. AJOL started to increase global equity in research sharing. We have been going for 25 years now as an initiative, so we are the older sister, but we are the smaller sister, because unlike the Latin American platforms, we don't have any public funding from within the African continent. That has constrained us in terms of growing our numbers, as well as growing our services to meet the demand. We currently have 700 journal partners from 39 African countries on the platform, and there are millions of downloads each month from every country in the world. Also, unlike the Latin American platforms, we don't only host open access journals for various reasons. Sharing the download statistics of open versus closed partners is directly attributable to nearly 50 journals flipping from closed to open. So that's one of the motivations. So in my understanding of open infrastructures, which I used to prepare this, we were an early adopter of open journal system software, free and open source software, which is, to me, a good example of the open infrastructures that in the digital information age, our work requires these to function at all. They are the foundation and the supporting walls that hold our content and are essential to even begin to make open science possible. If you can remember, if Sir Tim Berners-Lee had decided to patent and commodify the World Wide Web, we wouldn't be sitting in this room. There'd be no such thing as open access. As we understand it, there would be no internet. Diamond open access and green is needed not just because of moral outrage that public funding is being channeled by commercial entities into private profits, but because we have a deeper understanding that the repurposing of the resources that are currently in the global research sharing ecosystem could be better repurposed for the public good. And to progress towards that equity and openness of content, we must first implement really technically robust and sophisticated open publishing services and open infrastructures, as good, if not better, than those provided by the commercial entities. And as public resources shift away from the big deals, we need to look towards optimal reallocation of funds that need to be put into platforms and into the open infrastructures that support them. I'm sorry, I also have a problem of disappearing text, it seems, at the bottom of the screen. And this is in line with UNESCO's recommendations on open science, and to emphasize that the Global South platforms have been open science commons, or the closest thing we have to it for decades. And I'd just like to pay particular attention, as in the previous panel, to the sustainability principle here. This needs to be put into practice and not just be a principle. So the way forward for open infrastructures is part of the way forward for open science as a global common good. Platforms like ours need to walk the talk. We need to share more. We need to not just south to south regionally, we need to, within regions, build bridges of collaboration. We need to serve as an advocate for the development of non-profit infrastructure innovation needs. The example that I use is an open African languages API. It's unlikely to be developed by a proprietary entity because it's unlikely to make any profits, but it's needed. Open infrastructures need to collaborate also towards interoperability. Can you imagine if repositories and journal platform software could talk to each other for federated searches? This is bigger picture stuff than AJOL, I'm afraid. I'm using this platform as an opportunity to say that we have a shortfall next year as a small non-profit organization. And we thank our ongoing traditional donors, but we also have a call for institutional supporters, and the link is here. So if you know of institutions within your networks, particularly those operating in strong currency environments, please let them know. Congratulations to Redalyc for 20 years, our younger sister. Thank you so much for the invitation. The links to our main website are here, the JPPS, Journal Publishing Practices and Standards Framework. The URL is there. That was developed to displace metrics as an indicator of trusted credibility of the journals that are on our platform. Very, very robust and rigorous assessment framework, and a learning tool for our journal partners. We spend a lot of our time on training and mentoring and support. General inquiries, email. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Susan. Tanja, adelante.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you very much. I had some slides too. I don't know if we have them. Thank you to Arianna and Eduardo for the invitation to participate here today. And the most important, I also want to say, félicitations to Redalyc for this impressive open key initiative that you have created now for Latin America and also for the world, for the common good. So, félicitations. I am working for Redalyc in Canada. I'm located in Montreal, working in French mainly. And we also celebrate this year 25 years of collective effort to create open infrastructure and open journal communication. And this is only possible because of the investment of a lot of partners around, partner universities, the government, and so on. And I would like to approach this question about the open infrastructure that you asked as the link in the chain. I think this open infrastructure is really important to be seen as one part of what we commonly want to achieve and what we currently want to achieve for Diamond Open Access. So Redalyc hosts about 350 scholarly journals in social sciences and humanities. It's academy-led, community-owned, a non-commercial consortium formed by 3 major Francophone universities from Quebec. And the reason why this has been put in place 25 years ago was mainly also to provide the capacity to continue to publish about local issues, local questions that international journals would not necessarily be interested in to talk about. So it's really something that researchers working in social sciences and humanities absolutely need in order to be able to communicate in their network and to publish about these things, and not only to submit articles in English language journals or international journals, but also in French, or to talk about really very specific local topics tied to our society. So these are independent journals, and they are published in a distributed environment. Many of them are hosted on OGS, on library servers across Canada. And I will use kind of a cliche to say the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. And I think that this infrastructure that we build together for scholarly communication needs to strive and to be the strongest link in the scholarly communication chain in order to go forward. What is important here is to retain that this infrastructure offers support and technical requirements that the individual diamond journals would not be able to afford and to be able to deliver on. So these national infrastructures which are open really provide capacity to OA diamond journals. And I talked to Ariana before, and she said, can we look at technology a little bit more and identify all these pieces that we deliver commonly in these national platforms there, and then to see how can we go forward on more collaboration. But for that, to open the hood a little bit. So I put just a very technical schema here, and just to say on our platform as well, we deal with all these files coming in heterogeneous formats and then transform to XML to get from unstructured content to machine-readable content and to index these in the database, and then from there, display articles in HTML and PDF and so on the websites. And also then, of course, once we have done that, we enhance and we add all these persistent identifiers and so on, and make the content then discoverable and disseminated and findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. I think you have seen that on the slides in the panel before very eloquently, actually. So the key technologies are open because it's openly funded. It's funded with public money, and it's a public good. So we strongly believe it needs to be open. But what I want to highlight, and this has been said before, I think Andrea mentioned it, that there's technology, but there are people. So it's, from our end, we say a lot, it's human infrastructure that we create, because it's the expertise of the IT team that is building this open source infrastructure there. And it's technology people, but also experts, of course, in publishing and library and information science, which are behind these infrastructures there. And they do not only do technology development, but they do a lot of projects and partnerships. We do develop on the side revenue streams, provide training on best practices, work with the community, engage with the community, develop partnerships and advocate. So the common good for ERUD, it's in our strategic plan. It underpins all our work, because it's one of the big values that is inherent to the work we do. And I think I would like to return it to the metaphor of the link in the chain, just to finish here. The infrastructure must be those strong links that we have. But if non-commercial publishers become the weakest links, infrastructure will have no role. So really the link needs to be very strong. And Vanessa, you were asking the question earlier, what can we do to provide more capacity to this? I think we all need to have more opportunities to fund this infrastructure in a more sustainable way over a stronger and longer period over time, to have the capacity to collaborate more together in order not to build these technology in silos. And yeah, I will finish here by saying infrastructure and diamond OA journals must be equally strong links in this chain to go forward. Thank you.
Okay, muchas gracias, Tanya. Pierre?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have slides myself as well. And you'll see that I will start from a very different point of view, but the end of my journey will be quite aligned with what has been said in this panel. So normally, yes, thank you very much. Okay, so my starting point will be a very short presentation of the infrastructure I represent here, which is OPRAS, which is a federative infrastructure born in Europe. So basically, OPRAS is the research infrastructure supporting open scholarly communication in the social sciences and humanities in Europe. So we are here to coordinate and to federate resources in Europe to efficiently address the scholarly communication needs of the European researchers in the field of SSH. Basically, we are a membership organization, meaning that we are a distributed infrastructure joining together many different organizations. They can be infrastructures, they can be platforms, they can be libraries, they can be publishers, they can be research organizations, universities, all kinds of organizations operating at European level or in Europe and who serve the needs of the researchers in open scholarly communication in SSH. My list here is a little bit incomplete because we are a fast evolving organization. We have 3 more countries who joined us recently. Norway, Finland, and Spain. So, for example, FECIT and CECIC joined us recently, so they should be on the slide, but my slides are a little bit outdated. But so it's also to show you how we evolve. In terms of governance, we are governed by an executive assembly where we have public organizations governing our federated infrastructure. So we are publicly funded as well and publicly governed by public institutions, each of them representing one country. So for example, for France, it's the CNRS. For Germany, it's the Max Weber Stiftung. For Spain, it's the FECIT, etc. We are also governed by a scientific advisory committee, which is a very nice committee with a lot of different researchers coming from different horizons, and we have the pleasure to have our scientific advisory committee co-chaired by Eléa Jiménez and by Jean-Claude Guédon, and they are very useful in steering us on the right path towards the development of open science. So that's all for my very formal presentation of OPRAS. What I want to do now is to tell you the story behind OPRAS, and this will be my specific way of answering your question. So my other hat is to be the Associate Director for International Development of Open Edition. So Open Edition, what is it basically? Open Edition is the French national infrastructure dedicated to open scholarly communication in SSH. And basically what we did, we provide platforms to disseminate open access journals, open access books. We have been created in 1999, so we are 20-something as well. And you know, as Associate Director for International Development, I go from one conference to another and to meet like this one and to meet with new people. So in conferences, I meet with Elko Ferwerda, representing the OEPEN platform, which is an open access book platform based in Europe. And then I meet with Margot Baguier, who is representing a German university press from University of Göttingen. And then I meet with Elena Giglia, who is Italian, representing an OGS platform with some journals from the University of Torino. I meet with Lorenzo Armando, who is representing a private, very small publisher, but providing very good service to its community, etc., etc. So Open Book Publisher, Open Library of Humanities, Aleš from Slovenia, who has a platform to disseminate open access books. Jadranka from Croatia, so Johan, you talked about Jadranka yesterday, I think. This ArtShack platform disseminating 500 Croatian open access journals, diamond journals. but also Pilar, for example, with providing, with FACIT, providing very good service to increase the quality of journals. And of course, the OAB, and of course, the OAJ. Having one conversation after each other with all these people, we realized that we were developing our things in our own corner, and that we were divided, we were isolated, we were too small to build a European or even a global infrastructure, and we needed to be coordinated. And that's where the idea of OPRAS started. Because we have all these kind of very fantastic people, I would say, who are developing their platforms, who are supporting their community, but they need to scale, and to scale, they need to be federated and to be coordinated, and to go into a common framework of coordination. So how are they coordinated in OPRAS? We have working groups on specific topics, so on best practice, on multilingualism, on open access book network, on open access book, on business models, which are quite specific to the social sciences and humanities, on common standards, etc. So inside the working groups, they are working on white papers to identify, let's say, the state of art of their domain. Of course, we are collaborating as well with projects. So we have, let's say, we are lucky enough to be in Europe where there is the funding coming from the European Commission to support collaborative projects, to help organizations like us, which are small scale, to collaborate together and to work together to develop. To develop what? To develop services. So all together, we also develop services that are at scale, at European and global level. But there is another point which is quite important. Being coordinated and being in a capacity to work together and to be federated gives us the possibility to speak with one voice. To speak with one voice to the policymakers, to speak with one voice to the funders, to tell them that we are a trustable, federated and distributed infrastructure, that they can rely on us, and that we can work to deliver good quality services to our scientific community. So that's a very important added value of this kind of infrastructure as well. Okay, so now I don't know a lot about theories, politics, and you know from yesterday that I even read my definitions from Wikipedia, so I'm just an infrastructure guy, you know, so I'm not really much into politics and theory. But I've been working in this domain and in this sector for more than 20 years now. And in my journey, in my professional journey, I've learned 2 or 3 things, and that's the end of my presentation. So the 2 or 3 things I learned during the 20 years of my professional life in this domain. First, I learned that we are a community. It's not very difficult to understand what you're doing. It's not very difficult from you to understand what I am doing. Yesterday, when I was walking towards the folkloric show, I met with someone from Puebla. He should recognize himself. And it took him like 5 minutes to explain to me what he was doing, because I understood immediately. We share the same practice, we share the same challenges, we share the same values. We are a community, right? But it doesn't mean that we are all the same. We are not clones of each other, because we work in different environments. So that's why I think that even if we are a community, we are providing 50 shades of diamonds, different types of diamonds. So to be honest, I don't know what is the best diamond, the good diamond, the most diamond between diamonds, and so on. What I want to know is what is the diversity of the diamond models, and how to embrace that diversity, and how to support that community with this diversity, right? So basically, what I learned from my OPRAS experience is that when we are divided, when we are fragmented, we are weak. We fail. And if we work together, we are stronger and better. So together, we are stronger and better. Juntos somos más fuertes y mejores, right?
Gracias, Pierre.
It's not finished.
Okay.
One.
Falta otra.
That's important for me, sorry. My last slide is a question mark, because this is the question I have for this panel and for this audience. How can we work together? Are we in a capacity to work together to build a community, to exchange things between us? You have an interesting technology that I can use. Can you share it with me? How can I help you with my experience, with my platforms? How can we exchange? It can be a small thing, a big thing. It can be documentation, know-how, technology, training, whatever you want. So that's the point. Are we in a capacity now? Because this is a unique moment. Huh? We have all the world in the room. So this is a unique moment for us to be in a capacity to set up these global alliance of infrastructures, exchanging between them what is useful for each other. And to be in a capacity also, and now I address the last word of your title, global, to be in a capacity to set up all together a global infrastructure made of all these pieces of infrastructures working together, doing and making a global infrastructure, right? And to tell, once again, to our policymakers and to our funders, please sustain us, because we are all together in a capacity to deliver good quality services to the scientific community and to support European science policy. Thank you very much.
Saray, por favor.
Sí, bueno, gracias y gracias de nuevo por estar aquí. Yo, a pesar de que he acompañado a Redalyc así que desde que comenzó, y he sido parte durante todos estos años, casi 20 años, de su Consejo Asesor, no me siento autorizada para hablar detalles de Redalyc, pero sí quiero referirme como investigadora y como usuaria de la plataforma, de la infraestructura, y por qué es abierta y por qué es parte de nuestros ideales de bien común. La Redalyc nace como una necesidad al inicio dentro de las ciencias sociales, pero se fue transformando muy rápidamente a través del tiempo, y en estos momentos es una infraestructura que ofrece a las personas investigadoras una cantidad de datos, de información que de manera abierta y sin restricciones está disponible para todos y todas. Entonces, esa particularidad que no la tienen todas las plataformas, hay algunas que uno está muy emocionado porque encontró el artículo ideal, pero al ir a abrirlo y a descargarlo, tiene restricciones, hay que pagar o necesita una clave. Entonces, eso no sucede en Redalyc. Es una forma de tener acceso a la información de una manera abierta y libre. Y esto la transforma o la hace ser parte de esos bienes comunes que tenemos en la región latinoamericana o iberoamericana. Con la particularidad de que Redalyc ha ido creciendo hacia otras regiones del mundo. Entonces, ya podemos hablar de Angola, hablamos de la India, hablamos de Turquía, de varios países europeos, ya no solo España, Portugal. Yo pienso que, no sé, en mediano plazo o largo plazo, ir ampliando aún más ese ámbito geográfico que hace que el conocimiento nos llegue de una manera abierta y libre. Entonces, siendo una plataforma de búsqueda, pero trasciende ese concepto para llegar a ser una infraestructura que nos ofrece una cantidad de servicios y servicios a las mismas revistas, porque toda la información que procesa la devuelve en forma de estadísticas, en forma de datos que las revistas mismas utilizan. Entonces voy a dar un ejemplo de cómo las infraestructuras aquí presentes de América Latina, la Referencia, Latindex, Redalyc se unen con el apoyo de la tecnología. Yo no estoy hablando de aspectos tecnológicos, pero sí políticos y sociales. Y un ejemplo es que si yo necesito un artículo específico, puedo consultar en Latindex de dónde procede, qué calidad de revista es, si está en el catálogo o si nunca ha sido evaluada. Además, dónde puedo contactar a su director, a su personal técnico, etc. Y por otro lado, puedo también adquirir el mismo artículo a través de la referencia, puesto que la referencia cosecha estas revistas, pero Redalyc, por ser una infraestructura abierta, es también cosechada y distribuida por Google Scholar, por otras formas, de manera que yo puedo llegar, insisto, como investigadora a muchas diferentes vías a donde está la información que necesito. Entonces, esto hace que Redalyc tiene también otra particularidad, y desde que se declaró, como una plataforma que solo acepta revistas diamante, que solo trabaja por el bien común y por la producción científica en manos de la academia, hace que entonces tengamos la plena seguridad de que el contenido que estamos obteniendo es seguro. Y esto nos abre la puerta hacia, o más bien la cierra hacia aquella cantidad de posibilidades que en este momento nos limitan, y es toparnos con revistas espurias, con publicadores espurios, con indicadores espurios que pululan por todo el ambiente académico, y Redalyc tiene la garantía, o nos presenta la garantía de que eso no va a suceder. Y por último, quiero también referirme a la forma en que Redalyc nos presenta su producción. Por un lado, las bases de conocimiento, que son 3 o 4, ya no recuerdo, pero durante la pandemia nos ofreció la colección de COVID-19, que tiene una valiosa cantidad de documentos que se produjeron en la región en esos momentos. El conocimiento ancestral, que es otro que he utilizado muchísimo, porque ahí es donde encuentro, busco en un ámbito temático definido. Y el tercero, que no me acuerdo cuál es, género, que es otro campo importantísimo para la región, puesto que la información en los estudios de género es bastante restringida también en otros ámbitos. En Redalyc tenemos esa oportunidad, y por otro lado tenemos la seguridad, insisto, en que es material, es producción científica de la academia, es parte de los bienes comunes y procedente de una decisión política que Redalyc tomó de entregarnos ese conocimiento avalado y de alguna manera, o no de alguna, de todas maneras, propiedad de la academia. Y eso lo hace una infraestructura no solo abierta, sino segura y firme para la investigación. Gracias.
Gracias, Saray. ¿Cómo estamos de tiempo? ¿Vamos bien? 5 minutos, ok. Ok, yo solo voy a comentar algo rápido. Hay algo, un denominador común de todo lo que se habló ahora, y lo cual me llamó mucho la atención. Escuché varias veces la palabra comunidad, y lo resaltó mucho también Pierre. y la articulación. Creo que todo lo que contó Pierre de lo que hacían es básicamente hacer política. Me parece, creo que tienes muy claro lo de política, porque es mucho diálogo, mucho hablar, mucho articular. Entonces, quizás cuando hablamos de infraestructuras abiertas, no hablamos solamente de tecnología. Estamos hablando, decía Pablo de Castro en una conversación, en un evento, la parte más compleja no es la interoperabilidad tecnológica, sino la interoperabilidad humana. Que no le gusta esa frase a Andrea de interoperabilidad humana, pero básicamente articular con distintos actores, con distintas organizaciones para hacer posible que la ciencia sea un bien común. Y bueno, eso yo creo que es lo que puedo rescatar de todo lo que se habló acá, cómo articular, cómo interoperar con los distintos actores y establecer una comunidad que colabora, ¿no? Que colabora de manera horizontal, casi, ¿no? Es más o menos lo que sucede en las comunidades de código abierto. Yo vengo de las comunidades de código abierto, de software libre, y es muy similar, ¿no? Paradójicamente, eso está muy maduro en el mundo del software, en esas comunidades, y parece que no tanto de la ciencia, y la ciencia vino, mejor dicho, el software vino de la ciencia, ¿no? Entonces, es un poco paradójico. Entonces, eso, quería comentar, no sé si alguien más va a comentar algo. Tenemos, creo que ya pocos minutos, o vamos a las preguntas directamente. Sí. Ok. Tenemos una pregunta por acá. ¿Nos ayudan con el micrófono?
I'm going to speak English because it's too complicated for my Spanish, so apologies to my Spanish-speaking friends. One thing that seems to have been missed in your discussion on the panel is the proper, perhaps AJOL did the best of that, but the history of each platform. You're not coming, any one of you, from nothing. You come from a history, and for many of you, the history is before BOAI. The first stage, back in the 90s, the big discussion then, I participated in that with a very small project, was electronic publishing. How do we do things with electronics? It was driven by a lot of researchers who were thinking suddenly that they might be able to produce local journals that would respond to their needs better and or to their institutions better, and they could give that to the community, really, but without any much of a thinking about business plans at that level. I remember that when I started my own little journal, I put it in open access immediately for one good reason. I said to myself, FTP, UUN code, HQX, I bet most of you don't even remember what that means, my SSH colleagues will never know what to do with that. If on top of that I say, you have to pay $50 a year to access my journal. Yeah, this was a sort of pragmatic decision which suddenly enlightened me also about the realities of open access, the importance of open access, and so on. I think each one of your platform started with, because of that, with a different kind of historical baggage. But I think at some point, all of your platforms, and that this is wonderful, began to understand that open access was not just open access. The diamond option was very important. The green version of open access maintained its degree of great importance, as Kathleen and Eloy showed us a bit earlier. And suddenly, everybody's saying, we'd like to go diamond. Now, there is something that happened which is really important and really great, is that some platforms went towards diamond faster than others. And we have one platform here, which somehow managed to get, in a hurry for them, managed to get go ahead with the diamond model, giving us a kind of signpost saying, hey, don't forget that. Now that means two kinds of duties, it seems to me, to both Redalyc and the other platforms. To the other platforms, the convergence towards the model that Redalyc is offering, including the possibility of perhaps even improving that model. Nothing is eternal, and nothing is static, I think that's a really important duty for all these platforms. For Redalyc, they should be very proud of what they've done, but they should also perhaps tell the other platforms, okay, we're going to work with you, we can help you, okay? And I think this meeting, as Pierre was saying earlier, this meeting is unique because all these platforms have, for the first time, the chance of perhaps converging together towards the diamond ultimate goal, which for the moment indeed has many shades, but I think we can at some point reduce those shades to very few and be all working together in this kind of very open system that Eloy sort of intrigued us this morning with, in which we really, what we are looking at is the future of the academic publishing system, a system in which green, gold, journals, depositories and all that suddenly fit together with flows of transformation of those documents so that the communication to create knowledge finally finds its right tools in the digital environment. I think that's where we are at.
Acá tenemos otra pregunta, por favor.
Eu vou preferir falar em português devagar para que possa ser bem entendido. Primeiro, não deixo de reiterar os agradecimentos da comissão organizadora, ao Eduardo e à Ariana, mas eu queria pegar um dos comentários que o Pierre fez, o conceito de comunidade. Eu creio que a Redalyc está a fazer um trabalho muito profundo ao estender o seu alcance àquelas comunidades mais desfavorecidas. E eu não gostaria de colocar a África no sentido genérico, porque ontem, quando falava, há sempre a sensação de que quando estamos a falar de África, estamos a falar da África do Sul, com todo o respeito e consideração. Mas existem outros países, outras comunidades que carecem deste apoio. O projeto iniciado em Angola, com a Redalyc, tem perspectivas de crescimento a nível da África. E é esta visão que nós gostaríamos de reforçar. É bem verdade que, numa lógica de presas e predadores, os fortes se podem defender, mas os mais fortes ajudam a proteger aquela comunidade mais desfavorecida. Então é preciso tirarmos ilações muito fortes sobre o conceito de comunidade e que eu valorizo, agradeço este conceito. É preciso que não se excluam aqueles que necessitam deste apoio. Eu penso que esta é uma oportunidade muito grande de repensarmos aquilo que é mesmo o fator real das infraestruturas abertas. O que é o conhecimento aberto, de facto? Nós temos realidades muito claras em África, em que estudos são feitos, mas depois os resultados são publicados em bases muito restritas. Ou seja, o valor último dos resultados da investigação não servem às comunidades. Então são estas matérias que eu gostaria de chamar a atenção, porque eu teria aqui um sem números de exemplos. As doenças negligenciadas que nós continuamos a vivenciar em boa parte da África, muitas delas têm soluções. E se o conhecimento deve servir à comunidade, esta é uma oportunidade de facto, aplicarmos este conhecimento ao serviço da comunidade. Muito obrigado a todos e a todas.
Bien, muchísimas gracias. Creo que ya no hay más preguntas y creo que estamos ya al límite del tiempo. Entonces, pues nada, agradecerles muchísimo por la intervención, por este diálogo bonito que hemos tenido en este momento ahora y pues seguimos con la siguiente actividad. Muchas gracias.